Coach at brookeboothcoaching.com, where I help individuals who are in a mixed faith marriage due to an LDS faith transition. And this causes a lot of issues with the marriage, parenting, kids, all of that. So we're going to talk a little bit about, got a little series I'm putting together about how to deal with kids and parenting in a mixed faith marriage. And that's what I'm going to address here. So church has been a pretty low-key affair in my house for, the last 13 months or so due to COVID. We still don't have in-person church. If you do go to in-person church, you have to sign up and there are limited numbers. It's just not something that is really happening. Usually what happens on Sundays, my husband puts in his earbuds and goes into the kitchen and makes the kids breakfast, literally while he's attending church. But we also know that this is most likely not going to happen, permanently. That eventually we're going to have to really address this issue. So just the other day, my husband looked at me and he said, something along the lines of, one day this will end and church will start up again. And we both looked at each other with that kind of knowing that COVID has been something of a reprieve and not really a solution. And so for many, with COVID restrictions lifting, it brings up several things like how to negotiate family time on Sundays, family time versus church time, how to deal with decisions that were very conveniently put aside around children and their church experience. Put another way, if you stay home and your spouse goes to church, what to do with the kids, right? For many of us, it can feel like a tug of war, where somebody wins and somebody loses, and that often just leaves a bad taste. So what is the solution? How do we deal with this? Well, that's what many of my clients come to me seeking. And I have lots of ideas and I have lots of suggestions. But before we go there, we always have to address one thing first. The most important thing to address if this is the situation. Because none of the action items, none of the plans, none of the communication practices are going to help unless you do this one thing first. And that is you've got to clean up your thinking around your parenting and around your spouse and the spouse's parenting. You just got to clean this stuff up. When I say clean up your thinking, what I mean is you honest look where you're coming from around your parenting and around your relationship with your spouse and their parenting, right? And you gap. Often there's a gap between your parenting and their parenting, and that gap is full of worry, frustration, anger sometimes, defensiveness. It's full of all sorts of things. Confusion, fear. It's full of these things. So what'll happen is you can have the perfect action plan. You can have the perfect, you take him, la la la, and I'll take him here, and we'll do all of this. You can have all of that. Sorry about that. It's the bus stop bell. All of that perfectly executed. You can say all of the quote unquote right things, textbook perfect things. But if you're coming at it from fear, from worry, from frustration, from anxiety, from confusion, it's not going to always end up well. You're not going to show up as your best self in that conversation, in that negotiation. You're not going to get a great result from worry, fear, frustration, anxiety. Your conversations will instead, even if you appear to be saying the right things and you plan, they'll be fraught with tension. They'll be fraught with defensiveness. You might say the right thing, but you might say it in a clumsy way without being articulate. But if you have closed that gap, if you've removed the worry, the frustration, the confusion, the fear, you will have 10 times, 100 times, a million times better chance of success in having a successful conversation and coming to a resolution between you and your spouse on what to do with the kids. And do not overlook this. A lot of times we're like, tell me what to say, tell me what to do. And really, until you clean up all the fear and the worry and the anxiety around your faith transition, around your spouse's lack of faith transition, or vice versa, and you clean up all the fear and worry and frustration around, how the kids are going to turn out, how you are as a parent, like all of these things, until you clean that up, having a conversation about what to actually do is not going to be nearly as beneficial. It's not going to be as helpful. It's going to be muddied. It's going to be challenging. Like I said, it's going to be fraught with this indecision. It's going to be fraught with defensiveness, confusion, and all of that. And so if you're ready to close that gap, if you're ready to have a talk with your spouse about what to really do about kids, as far as attendance and teaching and activities, you really need to close this gap first. You really need to take a look at that and close this gap first. And if that's something you need to do, you need a coach. I offer a few free calls every single month. Sign up for yours and let's find out what's going on in your mixed faith marriage. What are your many thoughts about your faith status, about your spouses, about your role as a parent, either as a believing or a non-believing, and your thoughts especially about your spouse's role as a parent as either of a believing or a non-believing. Let's find out what's going on there so we can clean it up. Then you can come in and have the conversation about what to do with the kids from love, from empowerment, from clarity. And trust me, it makes all the difference. So if this is work you're interested in doing, contact me. Go to brookeboothcoaching.com, sign up for a free call there. You can always direct message me and we can set up a time that way as well. This work, do not overlook it, do not underestimate it. You cannot have the perfect conversation from the imperfect emotion of fear and worry and anxiety. You got to clean that up, and then even an imperfect conversation can net great results for you. All right, wishing you the best.